Hey folks, Joe Valley here. Welcome to another episode of the Quiet Light Podcast. Today we're going to talk with a guy named Evan Padgett from Stealth Venture Labs. Evan has had experience and investments in Thrive, in Fabletics, in Savage X, all sorts of companies and brands that we've all heard of that have done some pretty damn impressive stuff. He's off on his own now with Stealth Venture Labs. And I knew when probably 2 or 3 minutes into the pre-podcast interview that I always do now, I just wanted to have him on because he's just a very likable guy. We honed in on this podcast on subscriptions because he's got a ton of experience on subscriptions. Now, if you have a product where it's, a shirt, a shoe, a grill, a grilling apron, and you're thinking there's no way to do a subscription with it, hang on. Evan's coming up with a number of different ideas where you can add subscription revenue to it. He goes through some specific examples and talks about some of the worst possible ways to do it as well. So it's a great interview. Go all the way through to the end. That's where some of the best nuggets are. And he gives out his details at the end as well. He's a guy that would just love to chat and help out in any way that he can. So here we go. It's Evan Padgett from Stealth Venture Labs, focused on subscriptions in e-commerce and some for Amazon as well. Here we go. Evan, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast. How are you, man?
Doing good, Joe. About yourself?
Not too bad. Good to have you here. Good to have you here. Normally, I would tell people all about you in great detail, but I want to hear it from you. Who is Evan Padgett? What is Stealth Venture Labs? What the heck do you do? That kind of stuff.
All right. Well, buckle up. It's a long story. We'll take the whole time here and just get through it. No, Evan Padgett. I'm Chief Operating Officer here at Stealth. So Stealth is a e-commerce agency and incubator for brands. Most of our business is trying to grow brands that are already spending on advertising, typically direct to consumer e-commerce brands such as Mudwater, HelloFresh, Factor 75, others like that.
Mudwater's your client? I almost ordered some of their product the other day.
Pretty good. You should. I got an ad for you. Click on one of those. Helps us out.
Well, I think I did, but right, I didn't order anything.
Funnel. Oh, well, you got to get hit with retargeting. You know how this goes. We're going to hit you with some retargeting and you'll eventually get it. But now you have a personal endorsement too. So we do acquisition marketing for a lot of different brands, focus on direct to consumer, high emphasis on subscription commerce, namely due to my bigger background. I'll talk about that in a second. And then we also have an incubator arm where brands come to us and say, hey, we have this idea, get it off the ground. We do everything: email, website, CRO, acquisition marketing, branding, sort of help get it off the ground, and even feasibility testing. If you're like not sure about it and you want to see what it looks like, what the marketing could look like, we do that as well. But now that's a bit about Stealth, about me. So I've been doing this for about 20 years. Actually, this is my 20th year in internet, broadly speaking. The short version is I started my journey back at a company that was called Intermix Media, most notably for its sell of MySpace to Fox Interactive Media back in 2005. So I worked at a company alongside.
What is that?
I don't know. There's this guy named Tom who did some stuff, and you could put code on your. It's how most people learn how to do HTML. Really,
like my 20-year-old wouldn't know what MySpace is.
They wouldn't. So that was part of the company, but I was on a product marketing division, and we were selling all sorts of crazy stuff on the internet. The early days. Let's say crazy stuff. I'm talking like Simpsons bottle openers, little micro RC cars. All sorts of health and wellness products that don't exist anymore, on negative option continuity, basically. So what that is basically, hey, you're going to try this today. It's a free trial. And then in 14 days, we're going to bill you. And then you're going to get billed every month thereafter and until you find a way to cancel. We did that in the health and wellness space and all sorts of stuff. Then a group of people, when Fox bought that company from MySpace, they didn't want anything to do with the product marketing side. That's not what Fox cared about. So the people that were on that, they all jumped. I joined up a group of people that ended up building a company called Intelligent Beauty. Adam Goldenberg and Don Ressler, a couple of really close friends of mine, and the CEOs of a company that's now, the evolution of that is now Textile Fashion Group, house of women's fashion brands like Fabletics, Savage X, JustFab and ShoeDazzle. But I grew up at that company. In the early days, it wasn't fashion. It was more health and wellness. I did analytics. I did conversion rate optimization. I was sort of dabbling into marketing there, moved into acquisition marketing, sort of took on about 20 other jobs growing at that company to eventually I ended up running the JustFab and ShoeDazzle brand sort of as the brand president and GM as Adam moved into a global CEO role because that brand quickly ballooned into a gigantic global brand with offices in Europe and everything like that. So I ran those brands together.
Are you wearing any of those clothes right now? Just out of curiosity? Maybe. I'm not going to stand up.
Yeah, I tweaked the hammy. I don't want to stretch. I didn't stretch before this. I didn't know.
Fair enough.
So I ended up running two of those brands for a while, managing a pretty good P&L, huge team, loved it, fun company. But honestly, as like at that time, I had been working with those guys for 15 years. I was like, I want to see what else the world has to offer. Love them to death. But I'm like, I got to see what else exists out there. Also, we had a kid. Me and my wife had a kid. We were about to have another one. I'm like, I'm going to take a year off. Well, 2 months into that year, I got introduced and landed at a company called Thrive Market, and they were just up and coming out of LA. And they're still really awesome company, awesome mission. Love that team. Really, really cool operation. I jumped on as their chief marketing officer, their first chief marketing officer there. Really focused on scaling that. Nothing to do with me, but while I was there, they raised like $111 million and I've just been on this rocket ship ever since then. But after a year and a half, I was sort of the mindset of like, I like operating companies. I like really not that I'm against marketing because I spent most of my career in marketing, but I didn't want to be just a marketer. I really wanted to operate a business. So I decided that really wasn't for me. Went back to my time off, played around in LA, met a lot of people, networked a little bit, then met my business partner here at Stealth. And the rest is history. Me and him been working together for 5 years, building this thing up. And it's been a really exciting run. And he's Brent Freeman, my business partner here, the original founder here at Stealth, is just an amazing guy, really awesome entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. For anyone out there, we run Entrepreneur Operating System, EOS. I'm a classic integrator. He is a classic visionary. So we work really well together, believe in that program too.
Yeah, very familiar with it. Absolutely. Very familiar. That's a hell of a resume you got, man.
Thanks, dude.
Dropping names and everything. Pretty solid stuff. Cool. Now, given all your experience, given all of your travels and with companies that are worldwide, very well known. One of the areas that you are focused on and highly talented in that we're going to try to focus on today a little bit, or at least I'd like to, if that's okay with you, is subscriptions, right?
Yes.
I think it's something when you and I chatted before we recorded, where I came from. The company that I sold through Quiet Light in 2010 was a subscription-based company. 30% of the revenue was recurring. I love when companies come to us, want to exit, and they've really got their subscription side of things dialed in. Not everyone can do subscriptions. So let's talk about the benefits and drawbacks of subscriptions, what people should focus on, what you would say avoid, and what other people do right.
All right.
So
all in one answer.
Ready, go.
Here we go. So subscription and recurring revenue models. So I've been, one thing you know about my background is I've been in subscription models my entire career. Yeah. And one thing's for certain is that subscriptions change. It certainly was met with a lot of resistance. If I date myself back to the early to mid 2000s, very, very resistant. Nobody liked recurring revenue models. Nobody liked to be a part of them. They were met with a lot of scrutiny, and candidly, a lot of them were done really poorly, and it got a really bad rap because people, and I'll include myself in that, we're trying to make a subscription out of anything.
Me too. Me too.
Anything.
Yeah, didn't work.
It didn't always work. So then subscription itself evolved over time. You had tools come out like the Netflixes of the world and Spotify's and all these other types of tools that started having recurring revenue models, and they started painting the way for how to do subscriptions better, as in like create consumer sentiment, create a demand, and create a desire. Because ultimately, any recurring revenue model, right, it needs to have some benefit to the consumer to keep them coming back. You've given them a bill, like a recurring bill, not unlike your phone bill, your mortgage, your rent, whatever, your water bill. You have now a bill. So how does that deliver every time? So I'm a huge fan of subscription and how to do subscription. I believe that most products out there, e-commerce products, direct to consumer, SaaS, you can find and discover a recurring revenue model. It may not be where you think it is, and it may not be all of your business, but you can find one. And launching one.
Go right to examples for me there, because people are going, damn, man, I have a grilling apron brand. I sell kitchen supplies.
Grilling apron brand. Partner, figure out how to launch your own charcoal, right? It's a consumable. The thing with a subscription, beautiful when it's a consumable. Best subscriptions in the world, HelloFresh and all the meal at home companies, right? Like when I say best, I mean they're the most applicable. Everybody's got to eat, prices are good, and the convenience is there. Stuff is delivered to your doorstep, right? Like, so when you're talking about a grilling company that has a subscription model, well, a couple different ways you could go about that. Obviously, charcoal. I love barbecuing. Charcoal is a consumable. It's kind of hard to ship, but potentially you could actually create a subscription there. You could also create a subscription or recurring revenue model around a service that you provide, meaning either a white glove service, one of the oldest type of subscriptions that people can remember that predates the internet, all sorts of warranty subscriptions, right? Peace of mind type subscriptions that exist. Pay us X dollars a year, and if you ever have a problem with this thing, no questions asked, we'll ship you another one. You ship the old one back, right? Like,
that's what Lowe's does every time I check out. They're trying to upsell me something. That is
want to protect your electronics, right?
Exactly.
Like,
hadn't thought of that.
So it's about, if you have a consumer base, and I always like to draw on this kind of example. If you open a brick and mortar retail store, you're not opening that up so that everybody only comes in and buys stuff once, right? That's not really a business. Like, so, and the same goes for e-commerce non-subscription models. You don't build an e-commerce website to say, I only want you to come purchase from us once, never again. So you're already thinking recurring revenue. All you have to do is tie that into something that brings people convenience, solves a pain in their life, and it ideally is applicable to a lot of people. And boom, you could create some form of subscription model around your business.
So grilling aprons, grilling business, charcoal, spices, things of that nature. Even a old school newsletter subscription on grilling tips and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
And then when it comes to, I sold a electronic charging station brand a couple of years ago. If that thing breaks, right? So if it's $29, sell a $2 subscription.
$2 a year subscription. Like, I mean, you're talking straight margin 98% of the time on those types of warranties because people don't take advantage of them.
Yeah.
There's breakage there. So say like, hey, even a $5 or something like phones change. If you're talking about a charging station, create a club that says, hey, you want to make sure you always have an up-to-date charging station for your phone and your product. Boom. And then you can also mine information from them and create an account that says, hey, I'm Evan. I used to have an iPhone 10, then a 12. My wife's got a 13, whatever. Like, all of a sudden now you have more information. You can say, hey, what about this product? Or, hey, does somebody in your house need this charging station? And then when I upgrade my phone, you say, hey, send me back this one that worked for your 12. I got one that works better for iPhone 14. And you create a system around, and maybe you don't even charge it for it because they've been paying into that, or they get 70% off your list price because they've been paying. Like, there are ways to create a recurring revenue model, and all you're trying to do, right? A recurring revenue model or subscription, I use them both very interchangeably. All you're trying to do is establish a relationship with the consumer. Like, as funny as that sounds, a subscription as a company, you are in a relationship with your consumer. And that relationship requires you to deliver something that they appreciate, they like, they find makes their lives better, easier, and always provides value. Not too different than personal relationships in any capacity as a friend or otherwise. But in order to do that, you have to consistently show up. You have to consistently support them. You got to make sure that when they have to deal with customer service, that they have the best experience possible. because all the best packaging and everything and unboxing in the world and social presence and all that stuff doesn't matter if they deal with customer service and they are annoyed with that experience. It takes 10 resolutions to get something solved. They didn't like the solving. That could just be a nightmare in itself. So customer service is one thing we talk about maybe a little bit on this, but you're establishing a relationship with the consumer. You have to continuously put effort into that relationship. And you do that, those customers will keep coming back and stay with you.
Yeah. Let's get to the customer service aspect of it later. So you can create a subscription service for most physical products that exist, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
What is the worst type of subscription offer that people generally make?
The worst type of subscription offer that people generally, I was going to go with one that's just horrible. I'm going to start with one that's just horrible.
Please.
Like the worst kind of subscription is one where it gates people from the features of your product of your overall product that they want the most. I'll use some very recent ones. So I'm not going to name the car manufacturers. People can look up this themselves, but there are a lot of different car manufacturers now that are now gating their ability to.
I don't have a Tesla, but I think you're talking about Tesla.
There's some of them, and then others that are like, hey, you want this feature, you want to be able to do climate control, you want to be able to do automatic driving, you got to pay a annual fee. I hate that stuff. I hate it when you say the thing you want the most is behind a subscription paywall without an ability to just buy it and own it. I think on the consumer level, so like take car manufacturers aside, on the consumer level, the things I see that happen the most are usually subscriptions that are just boring, broadly boring. And what that means is stuff in a box that doesn't tell a story, doesn't really solve to the consumer, doesn't feel special or unique to them. So curation and customization is really important in subscription. Like, it's just like, hey, subscribe and save. I'm a huge, like, this is basically the subscribe and save model. Like, hey, you want to buy this stuff or you want to get it every month and we'll take 5% off. Those are just, I know some brands do it. I know some brands will say it's okay. That kind of model annoys me because you're usually giving kind of a token discount, usually somewhere 5 and 10% when you're trying to do that.
Yeah.
It's usually not very practical and it's not very mindful. You're like, oh yeah, here's a subscribe and save on this grill brush. Like, they're not going to need one every month. Nobody's ever going to take it. You're just trying to jam recurring revenue down my throat. And like, if somebody does take a subscribe and save on a grill brush, they probably did it on accident. Now you've created a customer service issue. You're going to say your subscription failed. So subscription, consumer packaged goods has to feel special. It has to really create a need to the consumer to want that. And it can't just be your stuff in a box at a little discount. That's the subscription that bothers me the most.
Yeah. The one that I see most often is, on, Amazon, where it is simply subscribe and save, say 5% and get the product every month. The problem I have with that and any subscription model is that, they're going to send it to me every 30 days, whether I need it or not. Right. And one of the things that I did, Evan, back in the days when the software wasn't available, I don't know if it is now or not, but my customer service team would always adjust how often. If somebody called to cancel the subscription or sent an email, we would say, okay, understand that every 30 days is getting to be a bit too much because you forget 7 days a week or 7 days a month. How about if we bump it to every 5 weeks or every 6 weeks? Yep. And we saved a lot of subscriptions there. Is there a software out there that would allow someone to choose how often they get the product?
Yeah. So there's my 2 cents there is most out of the box subscription software, say for Shopify, if I use Recharge for an example, or Bold or any of those. If you're building on Shopify, building on a Recharge stack, you have the ability to, on the consumer level, allow them to control that. So you could actually, I'm a huge proponent now of giving customers control of their subscriptions. I came up from the world back in the day of it's hard to cancel. Customer service hours are weird. And yeah. Like, so now I'm more of the mindset of give customers the control that they want. So you could sit there and say, and you could even bifurcate that and say, here's what you could see online. You could get this product, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever, right? And weekly is ridiculous, but you could put that up there. And then you could also have on the customer service back end, say different examples that say, okay, these are the 3 we offer, but if you want it semi-annually or you want it yearly or whatever, we could do that, or we can put it on pause. So the ability to save subscriptions is pretty much built into most subscription software I've seen, with the ability to adjust. And that's in the topic of customer service right there. That's the number one thing, and say, hey, I have too much of this. Like, we hear you. How about this? Why don't we put you on pause for 3 months? Or why don't we change it to be every other month that you get this product? And then let us know how it is. And if you have, and we'll take, 10% off your next order because you already got a little bit. And then if you don't like it, call us back in a couple months or go online to cancel. In many states, obviously, you can do that now. So yeah, most softwares account for that.
What do you mean? In many states you can do that now. Why not? Why can't you go online to cancel your subscription anywhere?
So I am not a lawyer, but I do know that, like, California, for example, requires customers in California to be able to cancel subscriptions or anything like that in the form that they signed up on. So if you signed up for an online subscription,
right,
you are supposed to be able to cancel your subscription online.
Wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make sense from what you just said earlier, giving customers control of their subscriptions, to not go with the old school method, which you and I did, which was make it really hard to cancel, send them free product 3 weeks later, send them a 3-month supply, right? I did that. Didn't work out so well. Wouldn't it make sense just to give them, everybody, the ability?
I agree.
Log in
100% agree. No, I totally agree. I think you should. The consumer, and here's the real data behind it. This isn't like just because I feel this way is everything. It's more like, when you do the math, every customer that you keep them from canceling, they are going to rack up customer service costs. Every time they submit a ticket, every time they make a phone call, there's dollars going out. Then what they're going to do, they're also going to blast you on the BBB or on Facebook or Trustpilot or everywhere that they can. They're also going to tell everybody how much they hate you everywhere that they can go. They're going to leave, really crappy reviews on your ads. Every time they get your ad on Facebook, they will. I've known personally people so spiteful and angry about a business that they're like, oh yeah, I keep getting their ads. And every time I get their ads, I paste this stuff on there because I hate this brand. And I won't let you cancel, and they're horrible customer service, whatever. So when you do the math, and I've been part of the team that's done the math with companies that have handled, millions of subscribers in different ways, it's always better to just let the customers have control. Because if a customer's canceling because they have too much stuff, or if they can't afford it, or they just don't like your product, offboarding them smoothly will actually keep them from becoming a pure detractor in like an NPS, net promoter score setting. They might be a neutral, but they'll be like, yeah, you know what? This product wasn't for me, but it was easy to cancel. And, maybe you like it, right? They're not going to be dragging your brand through the mud. They're not going to be, blasting your customer service with profanities and everything like that. And I've seen the worst and worst of that. If they don't like your product and they don't buy your save a sale of like, hey, well, how about we take 10% off, or how about we switch your shipping to, and they're like, no, just please cancel. Okay. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed it, and whatever. They're not going to be hating on you. And that K factor of people hating on you and the momentum that can build, the snowball effect of people hating on your brand, when that gets enough inertia, and it doesn't take much, 1% of your customer base being displeased with you can become a louder voice than the other 99% that are fully happy with what you're offering. And that is super real. And you can look at instances in the past where any company that gets dragged through the mud publicly or has, FTC issues with it, it's usually stemming from a few percent of their customers, not the majority that think it's fine, right?
In all of that, there's one thing you didn't mention, and that is chargebacks.
Oh yeah, so the other cost is chargebacks, right? So when people, you have a 1% chargeback limit typically on your merchant processor before you get put into very rigorous like practices, and you can lose your ability to be a merchant if you continue that. And 1% of the charges going through, that's all it takes, 1%. More than that, you are in all sorts of probation and extra charges, and they'll take a higher percentage of all your fees, and it's nasty. And also, if you have a chargeback set high, you're making a mistake somewhere. I just candidly, something's going wrong. You need
Absolutely.
to fix it.
Yeah. Fix it. Do the right thing for the customer. So let's just say we've got a 2 or 3 person shop, right? A single owner, and then a couple of VAs or local people that are helping. How do they build a real, true customer service support team to support the subscriptions that they're trying to build? Is offloading it overseas to virtual assistants? Is it something you find that works well if it's set up properly?
Yeah, actually. So one part of my background, this is very relevant. We didn't plan this. One part of my background at Textile, I took over our customer service department and grew that from about 35 people domestically over significant hyper growth, if you can imagine this, but about 600 people overseas.
Damn.
And phones ringing as well as email support. We had a lot of phones at that time. This would have been the early 2010s. Now one, I'm a huge fan of creating processes that allow this to go overseas because from a cost perspective, I mean, keeping it domestic is great, but the cost is a real thing when you're bringing a business up. The cost is, usually half or less than half for dedicated support. And it's all process, right? Like your product, if you're talking about a product that doesn't need technical support, right? Like you can't do that overseas as easy if they need literal, like, hey, I need to know how to use this technology. You can still get there, but it takes a little longer, right? Because like there's so many different ways to do that. But if you have like a consumer packaged good, it is like people are calling to cancel, people are calling to replace their product, or people are trying to figure out where their product is. By the way, all 3 of those things, you could make your website handle that. So I am all about creating customer service that customers can drive and do their own customer service, especially when you're small.
When you make your website do that, you're saving all the time and hassle and money of needing to employ people overseas. I'm thinking about my mother-in-law. She'll be 81 in September. She's probably going to be better off picking up the phone and calling. But she's going to have a hard time understanding the language barrier, possibly, if there's an accent. So every time I shop online, I'm buying clothing, wherever it might be, they want me to set up an account. And is this where, if I have an account, I can just log in and handle my customer service and cancel subscriptions? Handle returns and things of that nature?
Handle returns, or just do it over email, right? So even your 80-year-old...
she sends emails. She's comfortable with that.
She sends emails, right? And if you have a good rep on the other side, domestic or not, like they know how to handle that, because there's only so many scenarios, really. Like, again, that it's like, okay, we hear you need to replace this. We hear you need to do this. We hear you need to cancel. Here are the resolutions. And, even if you're having an email dialogue, email is a lot cheaper than picking up and ringing a phone, usually.
Yeah, great point.
So if you're small and you're just trying to come to market, like chances are you're the CEO and you're also head of customer service, right? Like you're looking at some of these escalated ones.
Sanitation engineer too.
Very much so.
So
yeah, just giving customers the power out of the gate is my preference. And like, while you might have slightly higher than desired return rates, because if you make it easy, then more people will return, it's actually still a better read for your business. Like anytime you're trying to trick or not even trick, but make it more difficult for the consumer to get the support that they need, you're making a bad decision for your business is sort of my stance now.
Yeah.
15 years ago, probably wasn't my stance, but now definitely my stance.
Yeah, it's definitely my stance now as well. So for VAs, for folks that are listening, if you're like, if you haven't hired a VA yet, I had John Jonas on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he owns onlinejobs.ph. Take a look, take a listen. That's one great resource. There's lots of agencies out there that can help you as well. Unfortunately, sometimes the agencies take, in my opinion, way too much money from the VA. By example, we Quiet still have a couple of VAs because we took them from the agency and hired them directly. But for every $174 that we paid the VA got $100 of it, and the agency got 74, all
Right.
for just setting it up initially, then doing nothing. So we bought them out and paid them directly. And not only is that cleaner and simpler for us, but the VA makes more money.
Yep.
And they become much more loyal and committed to your company. We can afford to pay them more, and we will pay them more. We just brought them on. But the bonuses, incentives, things of this nature that are really hard to handle through an agency when the agency is hard to get in touch with to begin with.
No, I'm very familiar with the Philippines. That's actually where I moved all that operation out to. I had to go visit out in Davao City, and then what was I gonna say? Oh, and to that point, you're totally right about how the agencies work, and also like we have here at Stealth, we have on our cap table some of our Philippines outsourced team members that they do graphic design for us and some post-production work there. It's really great. So like I'm personally a huge fan. It sounds like you are too, of the Philippines, because you do have the costing is great, and speak very good English for the most part, especially the younger generations there.
Yeah, the younger generation.
They're very customer service focused.
Yeah, absolutely. Both people that we employ are, I think one's 25, one's 28. They both have degrees in economics.
Yeah.
And they teach English starting in the first grade or kindergarten. It's actually their education, at least the two that we hired, their education was entirely in English. So they spoke a different language at home, but their education at school was entirely in English. I think that actually was passed as a law recently, wasn't it, Evan?
Maybe, yeah.
We're talking out of hand here. But anyway, on to the other part, a little tangent story. So yeah. I sold a business. This is for everybody to hear. I want to say it was a year and a half ago. Actually, I didn't sell it because I wasn't taking on new listings. Somebody else on our team took it on, but it was somebody that I owned an affiliate platform. I sold it for him years ago. And then he built up a subscription business in the pet space. Anything in the pet space with subscriptions is very high value.
Yep.
The problem was that it was growing so fast, and they made the ability to cancel subscriptions fairly hard, or they would forget because it was an annual subscription.
Oh, yes. There you go.
Right? Annual subscription. And they didn't send out reminders, didn't do anything. And one day the guy calls me, the owner, he goes, "Joe, look, we're ready to go to market, but I think we're going to have a problem. And here's the deal." And it was their chargeback. Their chargebacks were so high that they had, and he laid out a plan. He's like, "What we're going to do is, have one merchant provider, charge the first 100,000 in subscriptions, and then we're going to bump to the next one, and then the next one, and then." I'm like, "Dude," and I'm not going to use his name here. Let's just call him, Joe. Call him Jude. Dude. I'm like, that's a house of cards, right? First, you got to explain this to a buyer. They're just your valuation is going to go way down. And so the first thing I said, why don't you just do the right thing by the customer and give them a notification that they're actually going to be charged again for the subscription? He goes, "Well, that would reduce the total number of customers that would." I'm like, exactly, yes. But the trouble you're having on the back end would be resolved for the most part, and your ability to sell the business would change greatly. You'd go from a sketchy business that might be worth 2 times, even though it's growing rapidly, it's 2 times because the house of cards you're building it on, to 4 to 5 time multiple.
Yep.
And he took it to heart. I remember I'd known him for years, so I was a total straight shooter with him. And I thought, okay, that's the last we'll ever hear from him. That's what I kind of thought. I'm like, I might have been too straightforward with him. But he called back 6 months later. They fixed everything. Nice. And he sold it for a 4.5 multiple and had multiple offers on it. So to your point, Evan, when you put the customer service in place and take care of the customer and make it easy for them to subscribe or cancel, then it makes the business just better and more profitable. And that's exactly what he found as well. The minor loss that they found that they ended up having in terms of recurring revenue was made up with less headaches and less costs on the other side of it. So I totally agree with everything there. Now, you mentioned Shopify and Recharge. and maybe you don't know the answer, but what type of plug-in tools like that are ideal for people that build on WordPress? Are there similar things? Does Recharge work on WordPress?
Recharge does not currently work on WordPress. My understanding is they are trying to expand. They took in a lot of money earlier this year. I don't time's a fuzzy construct, but within the past year, they took on a bunch of money in part to expand. I know you could do on WordPress. You have WooCommerce, I believe, which has subscription capabilities within. You also have, if you're building on WordPress specifically, that's the only feasible option that I'm aware of. If you have to build, I think there are, actually, let me take that back. I know there are ways where if you need your content on WordPress, you can also have a different e-commerce backend. So you could use things like Chargebee and a handful of others like that are specifically essentially the cart process for these, which can be powered off of several different front ends.
I'm going to get totally selfish now. And if you don't know the answer, I want someone in the audience, if you know the answer, to reach out to me, to Joe at quietlight.com, or send me a text. My cell number is in my email. So folks that are selling on Amazon, but don't want to have a 3PL. I know now that on some platforms you can put a plug-in and people can order it on your site, but Amazon will fulfill it. Mm-hmm. Fantastic, right? How do you do that with books? Right? So I sell, it's prints on demand through Amazon. Mm-hmm. I'd love to keep the customer on my site, sell the book to them on my site, but then offer them a subscription model for monthly, for next to nothing, but monthly updates and videos and trainings and things of that nature. All right. Do you know the answer? Or are we going to have to?
I don't know that answer. I want to know that answer. The reason why I don't know that answer, and this has been, I get asked this a lot. So this is actually a conversation I've had more times than I'd like to admit, which is, hey, I got this brand on Amazon, but I want to go vertical. How do I do that? But I don't want to lose my Amazon business, right? And my main response usually is, so you want to advertise, you want to send your people to your own .com. Guess what? Like a vast majority of those people are going to see your ad and find you on Amazon, and you're not going to get that customer information. You're spending money to drive to Amazon, and Amazon's already taking a piece out of it. I could go on a rant about that. We won't do that today, but I would love to know the world that allows you to actually transact personally and then push through Amazon in a clean way, because that would be pretty amazing. Because that's the rub with Amazon. Like, Amazon's a fantastic, globally, obviously an amazing marketplace, and it's made people tons of money everywhere. But the rub is, at a certain point, almost every business says, how do I go vertical? And it's like, well, you want to go vertical and stay on Amazon? Unless you're Procter & Gamble or somebody that's just using Amazon as a fulfillment center to sell Crest toothpaste, you're going to have a hard time making that make financial sense. It's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, especially if their expertise is Amazon.
Right. Starting with there, yeah.
My advice when I get asked that question, which I get asked often, is, have you maxed out Amazon? Right. Before you start diversifying into spaces where you don't have the skill set, or hiring people that are just going to, rob you, make sure that you're doing everything you can on all of the different platforms on Amazon. Is it better to, really focus on spending money on your own Shopify store, or is it better to go ahead and expand to Germany if your product is a good fit in Germany? So they've got to do that analysis for sure. I think the answer to the question is, for me, I'm going to answer it myself, and folks, please hit me up with an email, and we'll share it with Evan as well. I think the answer is, let them go ahead and buy the book on Amazon, because most people come back to the site for some of the tools and resources that I offer after reading the book. Mm-hmm. And at that point, there can be the subscription model where I'm offering a higher level of access and tools and resources. Because now they're more invested in the concept of training for an exit, because they've read the book.
There you go. Well, so the best way on that, if you're in books or consumer packaged goods or anything, is your own self-branding on your packaging and everything, and creating. If you create, I won't say a hypothetical, because I've seen this done. A brand doesn't come to mind right now. Is you're buying this thing. You're buying lip balm on Amazon, but all over your packaging is, something to get you to come back to your lipbalm.com website. And a reason why you might want to do that is exclusive offers, deals, other products that you offer that aren't on Amazon, things like that. To just start getting some consumer information, it at least starts building your own internal brand and the reason behind it. So people aren't just buying a lip balm because they want a lip balm in that case. But having people circle back or in your case with a book, having people circle back to that website to create some form of interaction, in this case, directly with you or directly with your brand, in ways that like Amazon does a lot of things. What they don't have is community. Community is not a part of what Amazon offers. Like there's reviews and sometimes they're hilarious, right? But like they don't offer community. Your.com can offer community. How it does that? Connections via social, with your podcast, with all these, with other things, giving people the ability to text you or email you, right? Like that's community that you don't get. And that has intrinsic value and sometimes extractable value, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, for sure. Okay. So last question really is around Amazon. We're running short on time here. And I know that we could rant about this, or you could rant about this based upon what you said. People have built businesses on Amazon and changed their financial life forever. And in some cases, multiple generations because of the Amazon platform. I shop there too, so I'm not going to bust on it. And I'm not going to bust on the aggregators.
Deliveries coming today.
Yeah. Same every day. The best way to, sort of try to capture those customers on Amazon, if you're selling lip balm, is to do a proper insert and give what away though? Like what, if let's just say your product is $25. Mm-hmm. Wait, let me think about what I just got recently from Amazon. I can't even think. What did I get? I get so many things. That's the problem. Let's just say I got something for $25 and it's a consumer, product good. Mm-hmm. What kind of insert? Because most of the time I don't see any inserts from anybody. What kind of insert is Amazon going to allow, and what kind of insert is going to be best to capture that customer information, to get them to go back to my website or anybody's website and capture their information, and then hopefully build them into a subscription model? Yeah.
So there's, price point dependent. There's a lot of different things that come to mind here, but what you want to do is, obviously Amazon's not going to let you do inserts per se, but what you have to do is incorporate it into your packaging. So certain products are a little bit easier to incorporate things into packaging. And what I mean by that is like, they are not taking I'll grab something right here. Like I have Visine, right? Like they're not just sending me this bottle of Visine. It comes in a box and that box itself has papers in it and such like that. So if your product is boxable, which also makes it easier to ship because it's not awkward sized, right? You can do all sorts of branding and such on there and create ways to have people come back. And sometimes like giving stuff away is actually not like, certainly that works well. So, hey, here's a $5 coupon to our .com or something like that, right? Like maybe, right? But actually, depending on your brand and depending on what your brand stands for, having people essentially want to be a part of your brand and your brand journey is actually what I think works the best, because that tugs on the emotional heartstrings of people. And that can mean I'm selling this product and 5% goes back to saving the turtles, making stuff up, right? Learn more about what we're doing on this.com. And then they, scan a QR code, which slowly becoming more popular. I love QR codes. I wish they were more popular than they are, but people are getting there. Going to their .com, punching in this code, you create a member, and then you learn more about what you're doing. Higher priced items, if you're going up market, there's almost a really good reason to go back, because they usually say, hey, register your product and you'll activate your limited warranty or extended warranty or whatever, right? So you buy a microphone, you buy a computer monitor, going to that site, registering that product makes a lot of sense. So creating a reason and telling a story that's authentic to your brand, because what you're basically asking people to do is not to just engage with you. Maybe they keep buying on Amazon, but not just to engage with you on Amazon. You're actually asking them to say, come learn more about us. Like learn more about what we're doing and what products we're building and why we're building these products. And the why is, especially with younger demographics, becoming more and more important to the fraction of people's wallets that they're putting out there. The why, now, is it everything? No, but people want to know that their dollars are contributing to something more and more, and especially the younger generations, the millennials, and even the next ones, the Gen Zs, are really trying to like sort of do commerce with emotion attached to it, right? So you have brands that stand for something and have a social enterprise part of it. It's not everything. It doesn't have to be what the cornerstone of your business is, but that is becoming more important. And don't disregard that in the consumers of the future, having a focus on social impact and what your company does for that. And that's the reason why, you know, all the organic and non-GMO and all these really doing well, trying to make the world better brands are taking off, is because consumers are voting with that. So if you have a brand that can do that, find ways to engage with them, get them to like your socials, get them to interact with your socials, get them to create accounts on your .com, and then you will monetize that guaranteed over time. It's kind of like how SEO is. You don't monetize SEO immediately, but if you do SEO right, in 12, 18, 24 months from now, it's paying for itself in droves. The same thing goes with brand building and creating connections there.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. Great information, Evan. How do people get in touch with you, learn more about what you do, have conversations with you, and so forth?
Yeah, so you can go stealthventurelabs.com. You can fill out a form there. I see all those that come through, so anybody that wants to do that, that's great. Evan at stealthventurelabs.com. You can hit me up there. I'm on LinkedIn. Find me, talk to me. I love just chatting about this industry. Even throw out my personal email. It's very difficult. It's evanpadgett@gmail.com. That comes right to me. So I love talking about this industry, love helping. Find ways to either work with us or find ways to just chat, because I can rattle on about all the fun things to do in this industry all day long.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show links as well, folks. Evan, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Jeff.